Welcome to Stitchery Stories, where textile artists share their life in fabric and thread, inspiration, techniques, disasters and delights. And I'm Susan Reeks, enthusiastic embroiderer and textile art dabbler who also loves podcasting. So take a break and enjoy our light-hearted chat, and please share with your friends so they can enjoy it too. Hello and welcome today to our lovely guest, Janine Heschl. Hi Janine.
Hi Sue.
Brilliant to speak to you today, and we're speaking to Janine from Vienna in Austria. That's right, isn't it, Janine?
It is, yes.
So I have a bio for Janine here. So in her own words, I am a self-taught textile artist based in Austria, specialised in embroidering realistic animal portraits with my sewing machine in free motion sewing technique. I have developed a passion for embroidering wildlife, celebrating nature's beautiful creatures and striving for photorealism in all my work. My portraits start out as a sketch and are gradually built up with fabric and thread. No digital printing or paint involved. By focusing on colours and texture, I aim to translate my reference photos into textiles and paint them with thread. Over the last few years, I have given my art a deeper meaning by turning it into artivism, focusing on endangered species. I wish to conserve their beauty in thread and let my portraits tell stories of their plights, raising awareness and funds, as well as my voice for those who cannot speak. Oh, wow. It's nearly got me in tears to start off with.
Oh.
Because it's so lovely, that's why.
Thank you.
So, Janine, before we get totally started, and I've got 1,000,001 questions for you, would you like to share with us what you're working on and what's got you excited?
Okay, at the moment I am working on a commissioned portrait of a Scottish Highland bull that is under my sewing machine at the moment. And I'm not the kind of person that only works on one thing because I get bored very easily with one thing. So I've also got an Arctic wolf mask that I'm working on, and I've always got some pastel drawings at the side of my table to turn to when I need a break from thread. So yeah, that's all on my desk at the moment. And obviously there is the exhibition that I'm working on for the Jane Goodall Institute that's opened its call yesterday. So yeah, that's very exciting.
Yes. So now I think before we get any much further, one question I'm dying to know is the portraits. So if any of you listening haven't followed Janine on Instagram, or she's also on LinkedIn and various other places, just go and do it, because the pictures that Janine is creating are just the most amazing things. So for example, there's the ones that we're going to show on Janine's episode on stitcherystories.com. There's a lion, there's a orangutan, the chimpanzee, there's a close-up shot, isn't there, of an eye or something, and there's another one I can't quite remember what. But these are just, they look absolutely real. They're just astounding. So my first question to you is, how big are these pieces?
The biggest one is the orangutan, and that one is 90 by 60 centimeters.
So still quite large, aren't they then?
Yeah, the lion, well, it's the mountain gorilla. I'm not sure if you have these in the pictures. That one is life size.
Life size?
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah,
that is some undertaking. So I was just a quick aside before we kind of dig down, because I just wanted to get people a good understanding of how large these are, as well as they look so real. The chimpanzee just looks at you. It's the most beautiful, beautiful thing.
Thank you.
The exhibition, do you want to just tell us a bit more about that and kind of what's going on with that exhibition?
Yeah, it's the first time I'm sort of behind the scenes with the exhibition. It was an idea that the Jane Goodall Institute Austria and I came up with for raising funds and awareness, and to give art and artivism sort of a platform to raise funds and to actually make a difference and contribute to the change that we need. And Jane Goodall is coming to Vienna in September, and she's very fond of arts, and she's always excited about new ways of raising funds.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's the biggest gift you can give to her is funds for supporting her lifetime mission, which is helping the chimps and also to empower people to take part in such projects. And because it was her 85th birthday, 58. No, she turned 85. Sorry, yeah. This year on the 3rd of April. So this will be part of her birthday surprise that she will receive when she comes to Vienna.
Fabulous. And did you say a call went out yesterday for?
The call went out yesterday. It's an international call, so really everyone has the chance to apply. And it's not just textile, not fiber only. It's also drawings, photography, illustration, metal sculptures, anything really. We've decided to open it up to the entire art world, and everyone who really sort of has the desire to be part of this really special exhibition. Yeah.
I like actually that it is mixed, because it's like the other side of the coin. We often say, oh, well, textiles gets ignored from things, but then I think we can then be also guilty of ignoring other styles as well. So I do like that inclusive approach, and as we say, it also encourages people to view textile art and embroidery art as the art form that it is, and is comparable to any other art. So I think that's a really good move by opening it up to everybody. And we're talking here about, yesterday and last week, etc. So we're actually recording this. Today is the 15th of May, so 2019. So anybody listening, this episode will actually go out in 2 weeks' time, which is probably the beginning of June. So all is not lost. Yes, you've only, she says in quotes, only lost 2 weeks. So that was just to put a bit of date on there. So that's really exciting. So are you presumably, or are you putting something in then, Janine? I hope.
I'm not. No, no, because I'm in the jury as well.
Right. Yes. So that's.
So I'm not allowed. No. But there will be another opportunity for me to create another portrait for Jane. But that won't be part of that exhibition and that event that will take place in September.
Right. So you are focused on organising.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I was able to include the textile art as well. Like you said, we shouldn't exclude any other art, but we also need to focus on getting sort of the textile art into the focus of the art world.
Yes. Yes. Well, I'm sure we'll come back to that topic. Now, there was something else boiling up. Oh, yes. So while we're talking about the excitements, I don't know if is now a good time to talk through about the relationship that you've built up with Dr. Jane Goodall and the story of the chimp portrait. Was that be a good time now?
Yeah, sure. That is sort of obviously the highlight of my entire career so far. I don't know what's coming up yet, but that's probably one of the most memorable moments of my life, I have to say, because Jane Goodall has always been a very inspiring person for me, and in her fight for animal rights and for saving Mother Nature. Really, it's not just about the chimps, is it? It's about their environment. It's about the people living around these areas that need to be helped. So having been asked by the Jane Goodall Institute here in Austria to create a portrait for Jane was, it took me a while to grasp, to be honest. Like, what am I doing? Wow, this is so amazing. And I have to admit, it probably was the hardest portrait for me ever, even though it's not as big as the other ones.
Yeah.
But I really strived for perfection, and it got me into trouble most of the time. I tried too hard.
Yeah.
And But it was worth it, and I got there in the end, and I did have a bit of a deadline because they needed a photo to publish in the catalog and on the website. So, but that was good. I'm not a big fan of timelines, but of deadlines. But this really did help for me to get out of that perfectionism and just get going, really.
Yeah, yeah.
And well, obviously, the moment then when I got into the big hall where they were hosting this event, they had plastered the photo of Wounda, which is the chimpanzee lady that I portrayed, right in this on center on stage, and everyone got to see her, and it just blew me away. And there was me with my little bag where I put the portrait in my bag because I knew it would be auctioned that evening.
Yes.
I just sat there and waited for someone to come and pick up the portrait and to hand it over to Jane so she could auction it off on stage.
Yes.
They actually made me get up there. I'm like, there's hanging on to my portrait,
Yeah.
Oh no, what am I doing? Why am I on here? But it was just amazing once I stood next to Jane, and she was so kind, and the words she said about the portrait and how every thread was intertwined with the other thread, and it sort of, she said this beautifully, how humans and animals are also connected. It's like a little network, and it was just amazing. And she's the most amazing thing was that she said to me, it looks exactly like Wounda. And for those who don't know the story about Wounda, it's a chimp that she rescued, or that was in the rescue station in Africa, that they released into the wild. And she was standing there, Dr. Jane and caretakers, and then they released Wounda, and she jumped up onto this cage and ready to go into the woods. And she turned around and gave Dr. Goodall this massive hug where, you watch this video and tears just go and start running down your cheeks because it's so beautiful. It just portrays how animals, they do have feelings, and they are grateful, and they just know, they recognize human emotions and have emotions themselves. So that's a beautiful video to show that.
Right. Oh, how I hope you've got me going now. Oh dear. Right. That's just it's just wonderful. Yeah, just everybody go and find this. Well, it's on. It's everywhere.
Yeah,
it's just everywhere. It's just the most amazing thing. It really is. It's just so beautiful. Right. So I just wanted to get that bit in while we was talking about your exhibition, and I've gone off piste, haven't I? Here, I haven't gone through my list of questions, so we'll go back. I just wanted to get that story because it's just so lovely. So, given all the excitement that you've got on at the moment, and the beautiful pieces that you create that are so realistic, how did you get interested in embroidery and textile art? What was your path into doing that? Because you're obviously a very talented artist. I've seen your pastel work as well, which is just fabulous. How did you get into the embroidery side?
Well, it's a very odd story, I think. I
like odd stories.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm telling it. Yeah. I bought a sewing machine just out of the blue, really. I decided, right, I need a sewing machine. My first son had just turned 15 months, and I got very frustrated with myself for just sitting at home and watching a baby, which obviously is a huge amount of work, and you shouldn't ever say that, oh, I haven't done anything today when
exactly. Yeah.
But I have this I come out of a family that is very performance driven, and I always need to do something, and I got so frustrated with myself for not doing anything or producing anything. Let's call it producing.
I totally understand that. Yeah.
That I just I got up and I was right, I'm buying a sewing machine, and I did, and I started sewing clothes for my son. And I feel so sorry for him now that I made him wear all these things because they were awful. I'm not talented for sewing in a straight line. I'm telling you, it was the harder I tried to stick to the pattern, the the more wonky it all got. It was awful, and I need to get rid of all these photos of him. I should cause him trauma. So I decided, right, that obviously can't be it. So I started doodling. There's two people that I really enjoy watching, and I still find very inspiring. Is Poppy Treffry. She is actually British, and Elisa Berg, who is American, and they're both artists that work with free motion.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought their books, and I was heavily inspired by them because it looked lovely with all these raw applique and just sewing over it and drawing really. So I did that for a while and started building up a little sort of small business and holding workshops and all that. But
yeah,
I got bored with that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, right, there's got to be more to it. So I thought, right, if I leave out the fabric that I used as the applique, how about filling that with thread?
Right.
And
yeah.
so I thought, right, let's start with something easy. I took a fox.
Let's start with something easy, a fox, right?
Yeah. And I was trying to figure out how to get all these different colors that my eyes picked up into that thread portrait. And that's how it started. It started about 5 years ago.
5 years ago, right. That was the other thing. How long have you been doing this? 5 years. So that's not a long time, really, to develop a lot of skills.
It isn't, but I have to say that I am at my sewing machine every day.
Right, yes.
I do art every day. In doesn't matter which medium, but I try to practice every day.
Right. Well, that's a lot then.
Yeah, it does add up. But the funny thing is, because you said you've seen my pastel portraits, I wasn't able to paint before I started thread painting. I learned drawing with pastels by thread painting. Wow. I realized all of a sudden that I have this ability, and I'm blessed with it, and I'm very grateful for it, that my eyes can pick up so many different colors in, for example, a fur.
Yeah.
Where it's not just brown and light brown and dark brown. There is like 20 different shades and hues that I pick up. And that's how I realized that I can actually paint.
Wow. Well, I'd kind of thought, oh, you were a paper and paint artist who then
not
decided.
At all.
Right. Wow. So I'm sitting here. It's a good job the video switched off because my mouth is literally open at this point. I'm like, really? And back to the colours thing. I remember a while ago when you were making the orangutan and you posted, I've run out of purple thread, or I've run out, or I haven't got the right purple thread. Everything's stopping because I did for this purple thread. And I sat there and thought, purple thread? You're making an orangutan. Orangutans aren't purple, which is what goes through our heads. And then, of course, when you look properly, yes, when you see the finished thing blended in amongst it all, there's tones and shades of all sorts of colours. But
there
most,
is, yeah.
People even say, are you insane? Purple? It's an orangutan. Orange.
Yeah, I know. I remember when I was stitching the Sumatran tiger, I called up my thread supplier and it's like, right, I need tiger nose rosé. And she's already used to my crazy thread orders. And she's like, I have no idea what that looks like. I'm like, send me every single shade of rosé you have, and I'll pick the right ones. And it's good she did, because I keep going back to these shades of rosé and sort of reddish tones. And
yeah,
my thread supply is growing by each portrait.
I'm not surprised, because even the things like the eyes. The eyes just are real. They just look at you, and it's anything wrong, and it's just in thread. It's not anything else than thread. And it's the colour, isn't it? It's the colour and the use of the colour and the pale highlights and all the rest of it. It's astounding. I am just astounded that you have discovered how to do these things whilst experimenting with the sewing machine. That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. It encouraged me to do better now, even more so. Yeah.
I'm lost for words, honestly. I am.
That's no. Right, this interview is finished.
So that really brings the meaning of self-taught in there as well.
All trial and error, yeah, it is, and it's so more. It's. I don't want to say that any degree or anything is bad, but it also it sort of it doesn't provide you with that trial and error phase, which I think is the most valuable ever. With every mistake you make, and after throwing your tantrum, you go back to it, and you're like, right, I'm sure I'm not going to do that again, or wow, that didn't work, so let's try a different approach.
Yeah, exactly. So you can learning as you're going along. As you say, if you're doing this every day, then 5 years is a lot of practice. You know, what people talk about, is it 10,000 hours of practice to be an expert in something? I think you've got a lot more than 10,000 hours there, haven't you?
Oh, I have no idea, but but I've there's room to grow still.
Yeah, right, brilliant. So we normally talk about inspiration. So you mentioned there Poppy and Elisa. Obviously, Jane is a massive inspiration in terms of her mission and passion and everything. Is there any other kind of inspirations we can sneak in there before we kind of move on a bit more?
Well, I try to think about the inspirations that I have at the moment. And as much as I used to be inspired, or still am, I'm not used to, I love opening my Instagram feed and all these amazing artists posting their process of embroidery and metal work. And, because I follow a wide range of art as well.
Yes.
I'm constantly inspired by them and by their stories and their process shots. But I think I'm more inspired at the moment by people like you said, Jane, or Greta Thunberg, or National Geographic's photographers who are out there, who are really, making a change, and where I go, wow, this is what I want to do. This is really, really good, because this is what we need right now.
Yes, and it's a real growing, I think, with getting all the younger people involved and the passion that people are showing and the things they're all doing. I think the politicians now really just need to wake up, don't they? And a lot of the people who are just dismissing all of this, it's just got to change. And I think the more people who can passionately do this kind of thing, as you say, using art and any medium to get up and speak up and do something is what we need. I saw in the paper online or something a few weeks ago, there's I may get the details of this wrong, but the general gist of the idea is, has there been some big United Nations sponsored state of the world health kind of thing in terms of the biodiversity? And just reading through the highlights of that, grim reading. And I think just things have got to be done now, haven't they? We've got no time left now. We
don't have much time left, and we can't concentrate anymore on things like a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan. It's not it won't work out. And the UN report that I think that's what you were talking about.
Yes, that's right.
1 million animals are facing extinction. A million.
That's a number I just was quite horrified at. 1 million. Wow.
It is terrible. It gives me anxiety. I have to admit, it gives me seriously climate anxiety. But we mustn't underestimate the power of art.
Yes,
it's always been a very powerful tool, and I think even more so, it's the responsibility of artists to take this into their own hands, in their own medium, because we reach people in a different way with emotions. Politicians, nobody listens to them anymore because it's all blah blah. Yeah. But we have the power of putting emotion into our art and reach people on a different level.
Yeah, and because people will at first think, oh wow, that's a fabulous, photo of a chimpanzee, and then realize it's actually not a photo, it's been made out of thread. You're attracting someone's attention who maybe you wouldn't have attracted in a different way, because they've got that, I'm bored with politicians, or I'm bored with people lecturing on about this, that and the other. So yeah, I think it's a fabulous way of attracting attention, because, well, crikey, that's what it needs, isn't it? So
absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, I can see those inspirations coming through very, very strongly. Now, we normally talk about techniques. I think we've mentioned here your main technique is free motion machine embroidery.
That's
so
right.
How have you developed that over those 5 years and much more than 10,000 hours, Janine?
Well, I have tried hand embroidery, I have to say, but it was awful because I sat there for 2 hours and stitching away and I didn't get anywhere.
I know the feeling.
I can just, I just go over a small area and it's filled after
Yeah.
an hour or two
Yeah.
with all the details and single hair stitching and all that I add.
Yeah.
It's done, and with hand embroidery, you're like there and nothing happens. And, I'm very impatient when it comes to that. So the sewing machine is obviously I do spend a lot of time, doing single stitches, and that takes a lot of time, but I at least have the feeling of, yeah, I've produced something. We're back at the producing thing.
Producer again. Yeah, the impatient producer. So when it comes down to the making fur and hair look like fur and hair, you talked there about single stitches. So how have you developed that technique? Because it's just, again, it just blows my head off.
I've tried different things. I've even tried, I've threaded 4 different colors of thread into one needle of my sewing machine, and I've stitched that because it creates a very different texture, first of all, because it's really thick, obviously, with 3 pieces of thread in that needle, but it also creates different colors and uneven colors. And I used that for my very first portraits that I had. And it looked good at the time because it gave a furry feeling. But with my portraits going large and going sort of even sometimes life size, I obviously had much more space to fill. And zooming into my reference photos, I recognized, okay, there's layers of fur, and there's lighting that I need to take into account. And then there's these strands of hair that go into random directions, and that's the thing that makes it real, makes it look real. And that's that's really developed, that has developed over the past 2 years. The realism, the photorealism has come in sort of not even 2 years ago.
It's just phenomenal how you managed to get those done. We quite often have stories about, some people come with some cracking disasters, things that didn't go kind of quite as planned, or you kind of learn from an experience. So have you got anything kind of aligned in with kind of disasters? And I know we were speaking before about, it's a similar idea, but maybe we can kind of not dwell on, but look at the idea of how do you handle what you describe as failure?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was thinking, when I read those questions that you provided me with, I'm like, oh, disasters. I was trying to think back of if I had any and if they were worth telling, but I couldn't come up with any great disasters. I don't know, exploding sewing machines or anything like that. So I'm like, I was thinking about that. Then it's like, why do I not have any disasters? What's wrong with that?
What's wrong with me? I don't have a disaster.
It's just wrong. It just shouldn't be. And then I thought, right, actually, I think it's the approach I have towards failure. Mm-hmm. I don't disaster being a failure. I don't. I embrace failure. Right. It's something that an ex-textile artist called Amy Meisner from Alaska, I read that in her blog post once, and she said, fail again, and fail again. It's something that we need to experience because this is growth. Only failure is real growth. It's a process that is very, very obviously very important for every artist to go through, but it shouldn't be that we condemn it, and it should be embraced by any human really, but even more so by the artist. And obviously I'm not, when I make a mistake or I got the wrong color and I realized only an hour later that really didn't work out, I'm obviously not going to sit there and really calm and going, oh, a mistake, well, let's embrace it. I do throw my tantrums and those things fly around the room, obviously. But when I go back, I try to be thankful and grateful for what happened. And the good thing is I don't have to start over again. I do have chances with all the thread to patch up and to cover up. If I'd be a sculpture artist and I don't know, the head fell off, I'd probably would be, would find it hard to embrace the failure if I've put in like 20 hours already.
Yeah.
But maybe that's my secret. I can patch things up. No, but really, failure is a good thing. And also not just with work, but also with like entering shows.
Oh, again, a while ago, I'd noticed that you'd posted. I think you'd, in a space of a couple of weeks, you'd got turned down from a couple of shows, and I was sitting there going, "What? No, surely that's impossible." So, do you want to just kind of talk about that? Because quite often people don't want to maybe talk about that, but you was very open about it.
No, it's a good thing to talk about it, because it was also the feedback I got on Instagram, on Facebook. People going, some people going, what, why, how, they must be blind, and other ones like, oh, I'm so glad I'm not on my own. I'm so glad that even artists like you, and they always, I don't know, always tend to put people that they admire work on a pedestal, but really, I'm just a person as well, like everyone else, and we fail and we get rejected. And it was 4 rejections last year that I got it from international shows that I applied to, and obviously the first 2 were hard for me to take, and was like, right, obviously I'm not good enough, or obviously I don't have. I don't know. I don't have. There is no category for me.
Yes.
Friends said, "Oh, you need to have your own category." I'm like, yeah, but then it's going to be a very boring exhibition. It's just a picture. So I thought, right, I'm not going to apply to any show, but I did again just a month ago. I applied for a fine art category in up in Birmingham, and I'm just gonna, I'm not gonna give up. It's also, it's not just applying for textile art shows. It's also sort of showing them, the organizations, that the hosts, that there is more to textile, and that embroidery has developed over the years, and the whole industry has changed. There's so many new things out there, and they need to have a chance as well. I always said that I'm not categorizable as a human and in my art as well, but sometimes I'd love to be in a category, to get the chance to be seen.
Well, you see, I find that astounding, because to me, your category is certainly wildlife art. You call yourself on Instagram, you're textile wildlife artist. And wildlife artist, and showing your pastels are absolutely fabulous. So it's just, it really does beg a belief that you get turned down for things. And I'm sure all our listeners will be sitting there going, what? That's just, it's just crazy.
Well, it's not a quilt, so I can't enter the quilt shows. It's not fine art as such, because they don't really look for realism. So I've really chosen a very difficult niche. That's it. I'm not going to change myself for the shows now, or change my style. There'll be a chance. And if not, then that's just not meant to be, and that's okay. I can live with that.
We need the world to catch up with you and the amazing things that can be created with a sewing machine, and we need to have all of our art stop being dismissed as ladies just occupying their time.
Oh, God, yes. That's terrible.
Did you want to have a quick anything about organising your creative time? I know you said you could try and do some art every day. Have you got anything kind of talk about around there?
Well, yes. Well, it was a bit of a journey to organize myself, because obviously when you have the kids at home, it's very hard to get creative, and you usually just work at nights, and which is also not very productive.
No.
But once the kids leave the house in the mornings, you have the mornings to yourself. You're more organized, you have more time for yourself, and you can really sit down and make yourself do art. So even so, sometimes I need to force myself to sit down in front of the sewing machine. It's not always like, oh, I really want to embroider today.
Yeah, that's the main thing, because especially people with young children, and we've had quite a number of guests with the same challenge. It's like, right, crikey, I've got from 9 while 12. Oh, I've got to be creative. No, I don't really feel creative today. So it's that kind of, you being creative on demand because that's the only time slot you've got today.
That's right.
I think it's a massive challenge.
It is, but it's been with the kids at home as well. You take every free minute you have. One's sleeping, one's, I don't know, playing something, quiet time. I went to the machine, I started sewing, and then I needed to. It was a stop and go. When somebody needed something, you stop, and then you go back to it, and you stop, and you go back to it. There's like no concentration at all. So it's always been sort of a struggle, but now I know. I know I have my time, and I can sort of freely, when I feel like creating, and sometimes not, I still need to make. When you go to an office, this is your designated time.
Yeah.
And I have my own room now in the house where I go in there and I close the door, and this is my office. I work now. Even if I feel like it or not, I need to work.
Yeah, that's very true. I do the same thing. I'm sat in front of a computer all day long, but, quite often people say to me, oh, it's a nice day. Are you going outside? No. And I'm working. And people who don't work for themselves or don't work from home
can't relate, can they?
Can't relate. No, it's difficult for people to relate. Yeah, so that's obviously been another learning journey then, managing children, time and creativity, I think, is an ongoing challenge for many of us.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But it's a good learning curve, and I think if we can show our children that it is possible, then I think they benefit from that as well.
Yes, and that's something that's always in the back of my mind. I've hopefully shown my son that there are other alternatives than having to go and commute, or there are possibilities more than there ever has been ever to be able to keep yourself employed gainfully.
That's right.
From your own home base. So, okay, here we are again. Usually running out of time. So you've mentioned about the exhibition in September. So looking for submissions for that. Is there I haven't even done your links, so we better do all your links as well, hadn't we? So, oh dearie me, forgot my links. So we'll just highlight about that. And you've already said you've got various other plans in your head, but nothing specific to share with us at the moment. So right. You're not sitting around doing nothing, are you?
Never. Talking back to performing. No, I can't sit and do nothing. That's just not possible.
I know. So we can find out a lot more about Janine on her website, which is textilewildlifeart.com.
That's right.
You can find her on lots of places on the internet. We've got textile_wildlife_art on Instagram, Textile Wildlife Art on Facebook. I know you're also on LinkedIn as well. And so all of Janine's links will be on there. And how will people find out about the exhibition?
It's posted on my Instagram and Facebook feed.
Right.
Or if anyone is interested in more information, you can email me at art@janegoodall.at.
Fabulous. Well, that's just been, I'm just amazed, and I could talk to you all day, all week, I'm sure. Because I've got a million questions I haven't asked. But for our 40 minutes, I think we've done quite well there. So hopefully everybody go and follow Janine and go and see what she's up to. And if you have friends who would be suitable to want to submit something for the exhibition, then spread the word. That's what we need.
Yes, please.
Yeah. And there we are. Janine, that's been absolutely and utterly wonderful. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Sue. Thanks so much.
If you enjoyed this episode and want to hear more, then please join the Stitchery Stories fan club so you can get an email when a new episode is released. It's a quick and easy way of listening and of keeping up with any news and information around this podcast. Please visit stitcherystories.com. Of course, you can listen to Stitchery Stories on plenty of podcast apps at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify and plenty more besides. You can also ask your smart speaker to play Stitchery Stories podcast too. But wherever you listen, why not leave us a rating and a review to encourage other people to listen too? I very much appreciate you taking the time to do that for me. So that is the end of our Stitchery story for today. Keep stitching, keep smiling, and keep creating your very own Stitchery stories.